Entitled parent on a plane demands the snacks I brought for my kids. This happened a couple of years ago. We live across the country from most of our family, so we tend to travel a lot. I learned early on that it is much easier to keep the kids quiet and happy when I have a supply of snacks and entertainment. At the time, my daughters were 5 and 3, and my twin boys were 1. My husband sat across the aisle, with one baby on his lap, while I took the other aisle seat and baby, leaving the girls in the middle and the window seats next to me. After we were up in the air, I got busy distributing snacks and setting up a movie on the tablet. My girls were settled in, happily munching away with their headphones on. My husband promptly fell asleep, and I started to read the book I had brought for myself. So far, so good. Then I heard a child whine, "I'm hungry." Turns out there were 2 kids travelling with a woman in the seats in front of us. Nothing remarkable, until I heard the woman say, "There's some food right behind us. Turn around and get some." I looked straight up from my book. A little boy was leaning over to the seat and staring at me. "I want those," he demanded, pointing to the bag of Doritos my daughter was eating. "No, that's our food," I answered. "Ask a flight attendant what snacks they have." "I want those." He was getting louder. "Well, you can want in one hand and poop in the other and see which one fills up first," I replied. The boy looked confused, but his mother whipped her head around. "Excuse me? What is that supposed to mean?" "It means we don't always get what we want," I answered. "Well, that is incredibly rude," she snapped. "He's just a little boy and he's hungry." "I'm sure the flight attendants have some pretzels or something. Ask them." I tried to go back to my book. "You have a whole bag of snacks. Why can't you share with us?" I was starting to get irritated. "Because they are our snacks. I bought them, packed them, and they're for my kids. We have 2 layovers and 2 more flights ahead of us, and the food has to last our destination. Next time, bring your own." "Can I play on your tablet?" Now a little girl was peeking over the seats. Again, no. It belongs to us, and my daughters are using it. At this point, my daughters noticed the commotion and had taken off their headphones. My husband slumbered blissfully on. "But I'm bored," whined the girl. "Please," joined the boy. "You can have one of my colouring books," my 5-year-old volunteered. The mother sneered. "Colouring is boring. You should share your tablet and not be so selfish. Didn't your mother tell you to share with others?" My daughter looked at me, hurt and confused. "And what will you be sharing with us?" I asked. The 2 kids looked at their mom. "What?" she asked. "I said, what will you be sharing with us? It should be something of equal value, don't you think? What are we getting out of this?" I stared silently while mother fumbled for an answer. "We don't have anything to share. I'm a single mum, you know. It's not easy." I smiled. "And yet you were able to afford 3 plane tickets. I ask again, what do you have to share with us? I'll take cash for the snacks, and your phone should be a good trade for the tablet." She sputtered some more, but eventually turned herself and our kids around. They didn't bother us for the rest of the flight. My kids settled back in, and I got to read your book. While my daughter was 11, the only thing she wanted for her birthday was some heavy-duty rope, so she and her brother could play in the woods with it and do things like make tree swings. My husband and I went to Home Depot and bought her something like 15 feet of rope that ended up costing about $50. We wanted her to have some nice rope. It was an unusual thing for a little girl to ask for her birthday, but we wanted her to be able to use it the way she was imagining, so we didn't mind spending more than they expected getting this rope. At the time, we had lived in this enormous planned community that had hundreds of acres of natural areas and parks filled with big, old, live oaks, so plenty of trees for everyone in the community to enjoy and whatever they pleased. One day my daughter, our son, and 2 friends of theirs took the rope to a nearby park and looped it around some tree branches to swing off of. They were minding their own business in the park when this little boy of about 4 approached them, watching them swinging. They asked if he wanted to try, but he said his mum wouldn't let him. They said okay and went back to swinging. Pretty soon the little boy's mum came over and told them they needed to untie the rope and leave the park, because their son was too young to swing, and it wasn't fair that he had to watch him have fun while he couldn't. Now, for safety's sake, I had trained my kids so they didn't have to do anything for a strange adult told them to do. And if a stranger asked them to do anything, they should give the adult my phone number and tell him to call me, which is what my daughters did. The entitled mum snorted and said, "I don't need to talk to your mother." She then walked back to where she and some other mothers had been having a picnic, got a small knife, and came back and cut my daughter's rope off a tree. My children were terrified that this wacky lady came at them with a knife and cut the rope and came flying on their home bikes, easily upset. When he told me the story, I was so... I'd been in the car wreck a few weeks prior, and I'd had a broken pelvis. It was just to the point where I was able to walk okay using a walker, but I wasn't supposed to be driving yet. But I was so angry, I put my walker in my van and drove to the park, looking for the woman my children had described. She was still there and looking very smug and not at all sorry. I introduced myself and told her I was the mother of the kids with the rope. She told me the same story my kids had admitted, and she had cut the rope because her son wasn't old enough to swing. I was astounded. I believed what my kids were saying to me, but I had assumed the mother would spin it with she was worried my kids were hurting the tree or something. I told her, "You're going to need to pay for that rope you destroyed. That was my daughter's birthday present, and you had no right to cut it." She said, "I don't think so. I'm not paying for anything." I wasn't sure what to do at this point, but I asked her for her name and address, and she stupidly gave it to me. She kind of laughed and said, "Sure, I'll give you my name. I've got nothing to hide." I hobbled back to my van and went home, seething with anger. I called my husband, and he immediately said, "Call the police," which I did. A policeman came within 20 minutes, since we lived in a pretty small town, and I told him the story. "That's destruction of property, and she can't do that." She lived within walking destination of my house, so he drove up there and talked to her, and was back within a few minutes saying, "She says she'll pay for the rope now, or you can press charges and arrest her. It's your choice." I was pretty surprised to see that she could get arrested over destroying $50 of rope, because that really hadn't occurred to me. I thought maybe she'd get a ticket or something. When it comes to my kids, I'm a mother tiger, and by this point I wanted this lady to spend a few hours in the county jail, but I didn't want to be unreasonably vindictive anyway. I asked the cop what he think I should do, but he said that he couldn't make that choice for me. I called my husband again, and he said, "Press charges. You already gave her an opportunity to pay for the rope, and I didn't want to." When I told the cop I wanted to press charges, he smiled and said, "That's the right choice. You gave her a chance to pay." He told me he was going back to her house to arrest her. I assume he did, though I never heard anything further about it. We ended up having to buy my daughter some new rope ourselves, but it was worth having that entitled mum in her place. So I'm a lifeguard at my local pool complex, and we have 3 pools outside the building, 4 if you include the paddling pool, and rules for bringing children to the pool is that you must watch them actively if they are under 8 years old, and if they are under 5, the children must be within arms of the parents. The reason we have this rule is to hopefully remove as many possibilities as we can of a child drowning or being injured, as we night lifeguards aren't looking at the same place for one person. We have to watch anyone in the pool. This rule is only the ones in the pool that add signs repeating that the parents must watch their kids, but still every now and again I see a kid struggling to swim, so I ask them as kindly as possible their age and who they are with. Kids that were honest will tell me truthfully their age, like, "I'm 6, and point to their dad, entitled dad, who's on their phone texting, or even playing games, not watching their child. So I have to get a cover for my colleague to cover my position, to go talk to this entitled dad, that I might not know the rules." When I get the attention of entitled dad, he glares at me. So I start talking to him the rules about, because this child is 8 years old, you have to be actively watching her, which means no distraction from phones, books, etc. As soon as I say this, he snaps at me and said, "Oh, she's 8, which is so annoying because I know that he's lying, just not to watch his own child who can't swim very well. I explain that the girl have told me that she's 6, and she's a weak swimmer, so she needs to be watched to her safety, which he surprised. I'm her dad, I know how old she is, which is such a bold-faced lie I can't do anything about. There's so many stories like this of me being verbally abused that I can't, because I dared to tell a parent their kid's actual age and they can't go on a high-risk activity. So this must have been when my friend, let's call her Sarah, was turning 7 or 8, and we had a celebration at the local park. It wasn't terribly fancy or intrusive, one picnic table with the food and presents, and us kids ran around on the playground. No loud music or anything. As often happens, there were other kids at the park. We were polite to them and all, but didn't really play with them, preferring to stay within our party. At some point, Sarah's mom called us over. We sang happy birthday. Sarah opened presents, the whole shebang. As we happily ate our cake and lunch, we hear entitled parent, "Oh, how nice! These lovely people brought cake for everyone. Entitled child, go have some cake." Sarah's dad, let's call him Joe, looking a bit shocked. While there were no giant decorations, it was pretty clear that this was a private party. "Sorry, ma'am, this is a private party. We're not giving out cake." "But this is a public park." "Yes, but we're not giving out cake. This is my daughter's birthday party." "Well, it's a public park, so you can't exclude my son." "No, your son cannot have cake." "This is ridiculous. It's a piece of cake, you cold-hearted. Can't you have any sympathy? Can't you be an example to your kid that sharing is caring? That man was very rude, wasn't he? It's okay, I'll let you have cake." She began walking over to us, daggers in her eyes. By now, several parents in the park were looking annoyed at her. Some parent, not in our group, told her, "Can you seriously just shut up?" Entitled child ran for the cake. Joel blocked him and said, "You need to leave," to the mom. She grabbed her kid and huffed back to the bench where she had been sitting. Entitled kid sobbed for several minutes while his mom ignored him, even though she did like to glare at us. I'll admit, us partygoers have become a bit rude. We all got the final pieces of cake, and made a small show of mocking their EC as we ate. Eventually we left. So a little backstory first. I have muscular dystrophy, a disorder that affects my muscles, and I've been in an electric wheelchair since I was about 10 years old. This story happened when I was about 15. I was at a local McDonald's with a friend, and we were waiting in line to order. Out of nowhere, this kid, about 5 or 6 years old, runs up beside me, yanks my driving hand off the controller, and starts forcibly wrenching it back and forth. Luckily, I had the habit of turning off my wheelchair when I was stationary, like waiting in line, because if the wheelchair had been on, the kid would have definitely hurt himself by driving the wheelchair into himself. As I realized what's happening, my first reaction was to yell, "Stop!" The kid ignores me and continues to wrench the controller and then starts pressing the different buttons, like the on, off, and horn button. My friend, luckily again, before the on switch registered and the kid hurt himself, my friend who was standing in front of me heard me yell and realized what's happening and pulls the kid away from the wheelchair. The kid starts screaming at the top of his lungs and continues to wave his arms wildly, trying to reach out with both hands towards the controller. While this is happening, I'm checking to see if the kid broke my controller. Thankfully, nothing broke. This is when the real fun starts, when entitled mom, EM, runs in. "What are you doing to my son?" as she rips him out of my friend's hands. Me. "Sorry, ma'am, but your son was trying to play with my wheelchair controller, and we had to pull him away before he broke it or hurt himself." She didn't really care about what I was saying. "What's the big deal? Just let him play with it." This way she said it was really irritating me, so I dropped the pleasantries. "Really, it's not a toy. I need this to move around." Again, not listening or caring what I was saying, she lets her child go, and surprise, he runs right for the controller again. My friend anticipates this, and he stops the kid before he reaches the controller, and the kid starts screaming again. At this point, a McDonald's worker hears the screaming and intervenes. "What's going on here?" "We're trying to stop this little boy from playing with my wheelchair controller. He could hurt himself or break it." "Stop exaggerating. He's not going to break it." Then she said the dumbest thing I've heard from an adult. I'll never forget it. "Can't you just get out and let my son run around?" She said it like my wheelchair was some kid's toy from Walmart. Me, my friend, and the McDonald's worker all looked with the same expression of, "Are you serious?" We could see the McDonald worker didn't want to make a scene, so he just ignored her stupidity and told her to go back to her table and then take her son away from the wheelchair or she would have to leave. He then turned to me, apologized for the way she acted, and made sure everyone was okay with me in my wheelchair. He was great. We ordered our food and sat down at the opposite side of the restaurant, as far away from a titled mother and her spawn as possible.